Hi, this is Eileen Bartosh from Eileen Bartosh Designs, and this is another of my 2020 quilts named Dizzy that has not been seen much this year because we haven't had any shows going on. So I'm going to do a little instructional video on how to make this quilt. To do that, you need the pattern, a clear 60-degree triangle ruler, and I do like the clear ones best because you need to see all of the detail up on the top of the triangle. You can use any size bigger than 6.5, so don't try to use a 6-inch one. I had to go get 10-inch ones, and they are both available on my website, eileenbartosh.com. Also, I do have kits available which include the pattern, 6 wonderful bright primaries, and a beautiful small black and white stripe. I love the way the black and white stripe brings out the colors and just makes it bright, wonderful, cheery, and not that difficult to do. So, to do it, bring your pattern out because there's some odd measurements in there. And there's really only 2 blocks. And the first block we're going to look at is the solid color with the striped border. And first you need to cut. And to do that, you want to take your strip, and the strip is cut on this one 4 inches. Again, all of the measurements are in the pattern. So you take and put the point of the ruler at the top line and the 4-inch line at the bottom. And then you can move it over so that you're cutting off the selvage edge. And of course that'll be waste. And there is a 4-inch triangle for the centers. And then you flip your ruler around, line up the 4-inch, make sure this is on the right side, put the point on the other edge, and cut again. And then you just go down your strip as many cuts as you need for that. Now the stripe has 3 different sizes. And it is 1 3/8 inch wide. You need a 4 7/8, 5 7/8, and 6 7/8. So again, you can cut off the edge, and I've already used this strip. And to cut the sizes that we need, you want to put your point of the ruler to the right if you're right-handed, or to the left if you're left-handed, but I'm right-handed, and then the one side of the ruler to the top, and you'll notice it does not match the edge. Can you see that? So you also can put one side of the ruler to the bottom of the strip. So you can rotate between top of the strip, bottom of the strip, and you want to do whichever one comes out even on the end. So this is, the first one's 4 7/8. So this is 4, that's 7/8. You want the bottom, the side of the ruler on the bottom. You want 4 7/8 inch exactly on the 4 7/8 inch line, and then you will cut. And then you will cut the next 2 sizes also, and you end up with all of the pieces, whoops, wrong way, all of the pieces you need to make a block. So when you're doing these blocks, you would fold over, 2 things. One edge of these, because you're cutting from a strip, is on the straight of grain. 2 edges are on the bias. So I like to mark and put all of the straight of grains on the bottom of the triangle. It just makes me feel like it's coming together a little better. So you can either put a pin in those when you're cutting them, or a sticker, whatever works better for you. So you take the smallest size, this is a 4 7/8, fold it back on your triangle, and you'll notice that it hangs out a little bit. The green does. You want to start sewing right where those intersect. So straight down and end up at the next intersection, just like this. And then because you're sewing at a bias, I like to kind of finger press it open so I don't disturb that bias, and then give it a nice press with an iron, starting in the center and then moving to the sides so that it's nice and flat. And then you would do side number 2, same way, fold it back, sew from where those intersect down to the next intersection, which looks like this. And again, finger press them open and iron them easily from side to side, from the center. And then the third side, you do the exact same thing. Fold it over, sew from edge to edge, open it up, iron it, and you have a finished block. However, you now need to trim it. And again, when I do this, I'm going to lay the longest edge on the bottom because that's the one that's on the straight of grain. And it needs to be trimmed to 6.5 inches. There's a couple of things you need to think of because they're never going to sew exactly correct. So you want the center line of the ruler going through the very top of the triangle. And then you want to try to get all 3 sides equal. You don't want to trim 1/4 of an inch off one side and 1/8 of an inch off the other. So I think I've got these fairly even. So I'm going to trim 2 sides. And you don't have to trim a lot off, just a little. And then I'm going to turn it one turn and line my 6.5 inch line along the bottom. Make sure my center line is in the center, and oops, try not to move it much, and trim off the third side. That is a perfect triangle for your quilt. So that's triangle 1, and you make a lot of those. It'll tell you how many in the pattern. And then I'm going to show you how to do the second block. And this one has the small triangle, the small strip, and then a wide strip on the outside. So first of all, we cut, and the center is 2 3/8, I believe. They're cut actually exactly like the others. Point at the edge of the ruler, 2 3/8 inch line, move it over so it's cutting off salvage if you need to. This one doesn't. Trim both sides, and you have a square with, this would be your straight of grain. Flip your ruler over, point in the bottom, 2 3/8, and sew number 2. And this again would have your straight edge on the bottom. Now the black and white, you can, by the way, do these double, but because the instructions are so, I mean, you need to get your numbers exactly right, but you can. So I'm going to do these double. I'm going to trim off, just line up any line across the bottom, trim off my edges, and then I need 2 7/8, 3 1/4, and 3 1/2. So point to the right. At the top, it doesn't match, so I want to go with the line at the bottom, and I'm doing 2 7/8. Which, there's my 2 7/8 is on the bottom. It's all lined up, and you cut, and that gives me 2 pieces at the same time. But you do have to make sure and keep them very close together. So The other three colors are 4 5/8 is one of them. Point this way, not matching, so I want to have bottom line on the bottom, and it's 4 5/8. So it's on my 4 5/8 line. Oops, when I have this even, my 4 5/8 is just a little bit off, so I'm going to trim just a little bit from that, just so that I can be accurate. 4 5/8, 4 5/8, and that is side one of this triangle. So you continue and cut all three of them, and you have one of these. So then you sew them exactly the same. You fold it over and sew from where it folds together, where you can see it meets, and go to that. Now, because these are kind of, you need to be a little accurate, you do need to have an accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. So then you'll have this, and again, I open it up, kind of finger press it, and then press it with the iron from the center out. And then you do side 2, same exact way, corner to corner, sew it, open it up, press it, and then do side 3. Now side 3 looks like it might have a slightly bigger than 1/4 inch seam allowance. You know, some of them just don't quite come out right. Here it looks fine. So then you would press it, and I would again trim this. It trims to 3 1/2 inches, center line right through the point, 3 1/2 along the bottom, move it up slightly so that I take the same amount from all 3 sides. Trim those 2 sides, turn it one side, one turn, and then trim up the other side. So now it's ready to sew. So then you already have your yellow pieces on here. So again, sew it just like you have all of the others. Put this one, sew it like this, open it, press it. This one, sew it like this, open and press it, and you have another triangle that you also need to trim. Don't know how sturdy this is, but again, put the long strip on the bottom because that's where your straight of grain is. The center line of the ruler through the tops of the triangles, and this one is also should be 6 1/2. There's not a lot to trim on this, but if you sew accurately, cut accurately, and trim accurately, guess what? You're going to be more accurate. Surprise, surprise. So now the second trim, you line up the bottom, line up the side, and trim the third side, except it kind of moved on me. I need to get something grippy on the bottom of my ruler, or maybe just not do it on top of all of these things. So that is the next block. So you have your 2 blocks. You will sew those together. Again, I watched the on grain, and I put them opposite. So you will sew these together like this, and those do match, so they don't have the little overhang, but you do a 1/4 inch down there, and you will sew this together in rows. And when you sew the rows together, you will trim off the outside, so you'll have lots of half pieces. And then I did kind of a fun border using some of the strips of color and did a binding with the stripe. And all of those instructions are in your pattern. So if you have any questions, go to my website and ask them. I'd be happy to help you with anything. Other than that, thank you for watching my video today. Enjoy.